Using text boxes on a form for data entry will usually get the job done in most cases, but it's not always the best solution for some types of information. A wide open text box doesn't help the end user consistently enter information that appears over and over in the database. By converting text box entry fields, such as the ones on our Add Customer fields here, into combo boxes, where a limited list of options is presented, you gain better control over the data entry process and help guide the end user into making the best choice. Let's improve the functionality of our Add Customer form by converting a couple of the text boxes into combo boxes, specifically the ones for city and state. Now, before we do this, what I want to do is take a look at where this data is going to be coming from. First, I'm going to go ahead and open up my states table. I'll just double click on it to open it. The states table is a listing of our state abbreviations and state names. And if you look down here on the bottom, you'll see that there's 51 records for the 50 states plus the District of Columbia. Let's go ahead and close out the states table. I don't have a table about city information, but what I do have is a listing of the existing cities where my customers are from. And what I can do is use this to suggest entries for my end users. So my city data is going to come from my customers table, and the states data is going to come from the states table. Let's go ahead and add these as combo boxes onto our Add Customer form. Back on the Add Customer form, I'll right-click and go into Design View. I'm going to use the Combo Box control, so I'm on the Design tab here. The combo box is this one here. I'll go ahead and click it, and click down on my form to add one. That'll start up the Combo Box wizard that gives me a couple of options. The first option says I want the combo box to get values from another table or query. This is the one we want for our states table, since we're going to be pulling information right out of the states table there. The second option, I will type in the values that I want, will create a static list that's built right into the combo box, but it won't change as our database gets updated. This third option down here will create a combo box that'll act as a search function, where it'll find records based off of a selection that you make. It's not really for data entry. So I'm going to choose this first option here to have the combo box find the values in existing tables. Go ahead and say Next. It's going to ask me which table I want to look in. I'll choose the states table. Go ahead and say Next. Now it's going to ask me which fields from the state table I want to use in the review. Next it's going to ask me which fields I want to view in my combo box. I'm going to choose the state name so that I see the full name of the state. We'll go ahead and press this arrow button over here to move it from available fields to selected fields, and we'll go ahead and say Next. Here I can choose what order I want these to appear in. I'm going to choose to order them by state name so they're alphabetized. Let's go ahead and say Next. Next I get a screen that's going to give me a preview of what the drop-down list might look like. I've got a column here called State Name and those states listed alphabetically below that. I also want to point out that I have this Hide Key column option up here, and it's currently checked on. This is the default state for your combo boxes. This is actually a really important thing that we'll take a look at in just a moment. So just remember that the Hide Key column is currently checked on. Let's go ahead and say Next. Finally, it's going to ask me what do I want to do with my selection. We want to store the values in the states field in the customers table. So I'll choose State from the drop-down list there. Go ahead and say Next. And we're going to give our combo box a name, CBO State. Let's go ahead and say Finish, and that'll add the combo box to my customers form. Let's go ahead and replace the text entry box that was already there. I'll click on that and press Delete, and then we'll move our new combo box into position. And I'll just drag and drop it into position. Finally, I'm going to change the label here. Where it says CBO State, I'll double click on it, and then highlight it, and I'll just write State. So there's my state combo box. Let's go ahead and make everything just a little bit wider. I'm going to click and drag a box around the right-hand edges of all of these form elements. And then I'm going to click here and just drag it a little bit wider. So that's the combo box for my state entry field. Let's go ahead and take a look and see how it works. I'm going to switch my view into Form View. And then because it's going to put us into a mode where we're trying to edit a customer, I'm going to press Save and Close. It's going to ask me if I want to save the form. I'll say yes. And then it'll come back into it using my Add Customer button. That'll put us in Add mode. Let's go ahead and try typing in a customer. I'm going to type in customer ID 3001. For the first name, I'm going to write Test. And we'll go down here and choose a state. You'll see that I get a drop-down list of all of the states, and I can make a choice here in the list. I'm going to choose Pennsylvania. Let's go ahead and press Save and Close to save this customer to my customers table. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like in the customers table. I'll double-click on the customers table over here, and we'll scroll down to the bottom. Here's my test customer here. Their customer ID is 3001, their first name is Test, and here you can see that the state is listed as PA, which is the abbreviation for Pennsylvania, which is not technically what I selected in the Add Customer drop-down list. This gets us back to that idea of that Hide Key column option that was available in the wizard. Let's go back into the Add Customer form and explore that value just a little bit more. Let's go ahead and delete this record. I'll right-click on it and say Delete Record, and then it'll confirm and I say yes. Let's go ahead and close the customers table. and go back into the customer's form. Once again, I'll right-click and say Design View. Now I'm going to click on this State combo box here and take a look at its Data tab. In the Data tab, you can see that the row source is set to this select statement, which is an embedded query. If I click on that, I can click Build to edit the contents of that query. In the query, we can see we have a couple of columns. The first column is state abbreviation, and the second column is state name. This third column is for state name, and its sort is set to ascending. This is how the values are being alphabetized. Now in the wizard, we had chosen we only wanted to view the state name in our listing, but our query is showing us that we have two values being returned, one for abbreviation and one for name. If I run the query, we'll see that we're returning two different columns. Let's go ahead and click into Design View once again, and then we'll close our query, and we'll take a look at some other properties for this combo box. On the Data tab still, we can see that our bound column is number 1. But if I switch over to the Format tab, we'll see that our column count is set to 2, and our column widths are set to 0 inches and then 1 inch. In this particular query that's driving this combo box, we're actually returning two different columns from the query. We're returning the abbreviation and the state name. However, in the viewing of this combo box, this abbreviation column is set to 0 inches, so it doesn't have any width. We're not actually seeing it on the screen. The second column is for the state name, and it's set to 1 inch. So this is the one that we're seeing on the screen. However, if we go back to the Data tab and take a look at that bound column again, it's saying that the column that's being bound or tied to the customer's table is column number 1, the one that we're not seeing, the one that stores the abbreviation. So that's how when we choose a name from the states table, it's actually storing the abbreviation from the state, not the name. Okay, so let's add one more combo box for our cities. The cities are coming out of our customers table. We don't have a table about cities, so we're going to have to approach this a slightly different way. First, I'm going to select the city one here and just delete it to get it out of the way. Next, we'll come up to the Design tab, and we'll choose the combo box, and we'll click on our form. That's going to start up the wizard again, but again, since we can't pull data out of an existing table or query, this isn't going to work for us. Let's go ahead and press the Cancel button here, and we'll build a query manually for this one. I'll go over into the Data tab, and on the row source, this is what appears in the combo box. I'll click the Build button to start a new query. On the Show Table window, I'm going to choose that I want to pull values out of my customers table. I'll double-click on it to add it to the query, and say Close. Now in my customers table, I'll choose that I want to include the city out of that table into my query. Now if I run this query right now, you'll see that we get multiple entries for each city. In fact, if we alphabetize it, I'll right-click and choose Sort A to Z. We'll see that we have multiple entries for the same city. For instance, I have 2 customers that are from the city of Akron, and I have a whole bunch of customers that are from the city of Albany. Let's go ahead and fix our query so that we're not seeing all these duplicated entries into our combo box. I'll go back into Design View, and in the Property Sheet for this query, and again, if it's not open, you'll click on the Property Sheet button here. I'll click on the background area of my query to choose the query properties, and I'm going to find this value here that says Unique Values. I'm going to choose Yes for that. That'll make sure that all the records that I see are unique. Once again, if I run it and then sort it alphabetized if it's not, you'll see that I only have a single line for each city. So this is how I want my combo box to appear. I'll go ahead and switch into Design View. We'll close the query and save the changes. Now the row source is set to display a unique listing of the cities that are currently present in my customers table. I need to make sure that I'm saving that data or the selection from our users back into the customers table. So my control source, I'll choose to store that in the city field from the customers table. Now, because we built this query on our own, we actually don't need to worry about this bound column or the formatting of the column count or the column widths over here. The particular query that we use to generate the cities only has a single column. So the column count is 1. We don't need to worry about the widths. And on the Data tab, the bound column is going to be 1 as well. Let's go over here to the All tab, and I'm going to scroll up to the top of the property list. I'm going to give this new control a brand new name. I'll call it CBO City. I'm going to double click on this label over here. Mine says Combo 24, but yours might have a different number. I'm just going to call this City, and we'll drag and drop this into position. I'll make the city a little bit wider to match everything else. And there's the combo box for my city. Now, because we replaced a couple of the existing form fields on this form, what I want to do is make sure that my tab order is still correct. So I'm going to click over here on the form itself, and we're going to go over here and press the Tab Order button. This is the order that data entry will happen when the end user presses the Tab key to cycle through the various fields. And I just want to make sure that these are still in the right order. So we're going to go Customer ID, then first name, then last name, then their phone number and address, but then it jumps to zip code here. And that's not right. I want to go city, state, and then zip code. So I'm going to find the two combo boxes that I just put in. I have this one here called Combo City. I'll click and drag and drop it right below address. And then I have this one here called Combo 22, which is the state name one. I'm going to click and drag that and drop it right below city. It looks like we actually didn't give it a name yet. So let's move it there. This one here that says Combo 22 is our state name one, the one that we added first. I'm going to click and drag that up below CBO City. When we created this form element using the wizard, it changed the name of the label that we had over here, and then I had gone ahead and changed it back to state. But it looks like we need to actually name the state field here. Let's go ahead and say OK. And we'll go ahead and do that. I'll click on state. On the All tab, I'll change the name of that control to CBO State. Now if I take a look at my tab order, and now we can see that it reads correctly, CBO State right below CBO City, the way it should be. OK, let's go ahead and press OK here. And let's test out our form. I'll press the save icon to make sure it's saved. I'll go ahead and close it. I'll open up my main menu. We'll go to the Add Customer button here. And now I can see I have combo boxes for cities, and I have combo boxes for states. There's one last property on these combo boxes that I want to make sure we address. One more time, let's go back into Design View. I'll right-click, go into Design View. And then first I'm going to click on this one for city. On the Data tab, I'm going to find the option that says Limit to List. For my cities, I don't want to limit to only the values on my list. Remember, these are the cities that are currently existing in my customers table, but I want to make sure that I can accommodate a new customer from a new city. So I'm going to leave Limit to List set to No. Let's take a look at the Limit to List property for the state field. I'll click on that and take a look at Limit to List. This is the one where we built it through the wizard, and the wizard automatically set Limit to List to Yes. And for the state, that makes sense. I only want to accept customers that are from the United States. So when we choose an option from the state list, I can't add new random state names. So converting your text entry fields into combo boxes where appropriate is a great way to make sure that the data that gets entered into your database remains consistent. On the state field, since we limited the valid entries to just the ones on the list, we ensured that a valid state code is always chosen. And on the city combo box, while we allowed new cities to be added to the list, it will still help ensure the consistent spelling as we add customers to cities that are already present in the database.